and welcome to the first episode of Moving On News. The idea is very simple. Over the course of this programme, we'll be projecting ourselves to 2035 to see how we manage the challenges of decarbonising land transport. We'll start with some exclusive announcements and some special guests, after which we will discuss a hot topic on the European agenda. It is, of course, the Green Deal. And we'll go over the reasons as to why the challenges are there and how to overcome them. Finally, we'll be looking ahead to 2035 when we meet one of 15 of Moving On's communities of interests, and we'll be finding out all about a brand new project, which is a fantastic new vehicle. All that and more coming up. It's the news of the day. Moving On Summit is back. We look forward to seeing you in Brussels on the 7th of November 2024 to discuss a highly topical issue: how to decarbonise land transportation in Europe. And to lift the veil on this 5th edition of the Moving On Summit, I'm delighted to welcome Moving On's very own Managing Director, Sébastien Spongenberger, and Michelin's CEO and Moving On Chairman, Florent Ménégo, who's joining us in duplex. Good morning, Sébastien, and thank you very much for being with us here today. Now, I know you have some exclusive information for us today, but first of all, could you tell us how the Moving On ecosystem is progressing?
I can. The Moving On ecosystem is doing quite well. You may know that in nature, ecosystems evolve over time, right? They strengthen until they reach their climax. And I'm very glad to share today that Moving On ecosystem went through some great moves towards our climax in the recent month. So 7 great companies joined Michelin as executive members of Moving On, setting a true shared governance of Moving On. 20 other great companies decided to join or to renew their membership. And altogether, all those companies engaged into 15 working groups, which aim at, in the end, accelerating the development and the deployment of solutions to decarbonate transport in Europe.
Wow, the forces unite. And of course, it's hence the decision to hold the Moving On Summit 2024 at the heart of Europe in Brussels, right?
Oh, indeed, because synergizing the corporate levers, namely innovation, and the public levers, namely investment and regulation, is the only one way to decarbonate quickly Europe. So, in fact, Brussels is definitely the best place, right, to foster that true partnership between corporates, public authorities, and even civil society representatives who would be willing to, with us, move the world forward.
So we've revealed the date and the place of the brand new Moving On Summit 2024. Could you maybe give us some names of some speakers that will be appearing there?
Oh, I can. The first thing I can say is that, of course, the 8 CEOs of the executive members of Moving On will be with us on November 7th. So the CEOs of Accenture, Capgemini, of CGI, CMA CGM, you know, the CEOs of Engie, of Massif, of Michelin, and Solvay will be with us. Of course, we will also have a couple of renowned and inspiring keynote speakers who I can't talk about yet, unfortunately, but it will come. We need to maintain some suspense. Last but not least, as I just said, very importantly, once the results of the election in Europe are made, then we will secure the participation of key representatives from Europe, because as you have understood, fostering a dialogue between corporates and public authorities is the essence of this this event.
Well, a lot to look forward to now. You actually mentioned the president of Michelin, and we have him live right now and connected is, of course, Mr. Ménégo. Good morning, Mr. Ménégo.
Hello, Hele.
Now, Moving On was created and inspired by Michelin in 2017. But what was the original idea behind Moving On? And 7 years later, how has it evolved?
Moving On's purpose has always been to work collectively to co-conceive and implement concrete solutions in the face of global challenges climate emergency, societal, technological, economic, etc. Today, with the new shared governance of Movin'On, we are reaffirming our collective mission to accelerate the delivery of sustainable mobility solutions because we share a common vision towards enabling sustainable mobility for societal good. We believe that solutions exist to address the environmental, social challenges that our current mobility landscape is generating. We believe that these solutions can be desirable and create durable value for people, businesses, government, and planet. We believe that responsible progress towards sustainable mobility can be accelerated by reinventing collective action.
What are you expecting from this new edition of Movin'On Summit?
The Movin'On Summit is a great opportunity to create a trustworthy collaboration space to enable achievement of our ambitions. We want to create connections with European policy leaders, international experts, to initiate collective work to enable synergies between corporate innovation capabilities, investment and regulation policymakers, to collectively succeed in achieving the European 2035 land transport decarbonisation goals.
Thank you, Monsieur Menigo, for sharing your vision with us. Now back to you, Sébastien, Managing Director of Movin'On, of course. And now, decarbonising land transport. That's the theme of the Movin'On Summit in November. But why is reducing carbon emissions from passenger and freight land transport such a major challenge?
Oh, it's a major challenge for a number of reasons. The actors of the mobility value chain have done the job in their plants, right, in their factory. But most of the emissions come from the usage of the trucks, the cars, of the vehicles. And that is why there is a challenge, because the technology is not yet there, right, to move from thermic engines to electric, hydrogen, and other kind of engines. And more than this, what I would add is that the fragmentation of the sector, the misalignment between some big countries about the ways to decarbonate, the opposition sometimes between different modes of transport, or I would say even the sensitiveness of the topic due to the place of the cars in our daily life, in our economy, also in our culture, I would even say, makes it very difficult to decarbonate. And this is where our specific ecosystem, which is both multimodal and cross-sectorial, I believe can make a difference and bring a specific contribution to the transformation of mobility.
Well, thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you. You'll be staying with us, Sébastien. And we'll be discussing the Green Deal just after this sequence. Now let's start with a subject that's been in the news for some time now. I just mentioned it, the Green Deal, a plan to make the EU the world leader in decarbonisation by 2050. But why is this Green Deal essential to decarbonising land transport? We explain all in this short video.
With the Green Deal, Europe has set itself the ambitious goal of becoming the first carbon-neutral continent by 2050, with the first concrete milestone in 2030 to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by at least 55%. The Fit for 55 package. This legislation impacts all sectors, from freight transport to the manufacture of goods. But it also affects the way we move around on a daily basis. All this while optimizing the use of resources. Today, in the EU, greenhouse gas emissions have decreased in all sectors except one: transport. With 25% of total emissions, 75% of which come from road transport. The changes are going to be drastic. The transport sector alone accounts for 5% of EU GDP and employs over 10 million people. The challenge is huge. So how can we make the decarbonisation of Europe's land transport sector a real success story? What path should we follow to achieve our climate objectives in a fair, cost-efficient and competitive way?
There's a great video there. Now, Sebastian, as we've seen, the Green Deal is key tool, but it's currently being challenged by various European players. What is Movin'On's position on this issue?
Oh, I cannot claim it loud enough. We really renew our commitment to the Green Deal. Some people try to oppose right now the environmental efforts that we vitally need to make, with their impact on people and prosperity. Even though we believe that the three dimensions, people, planet, and prosperity, should be tackled all together. We believe that solutions exist for this, and we believe as well that we can make those solutions desirable, and we can make sure that those in the end solutions can deliver durable value, not only for the planet, but also for the people, the businesses, and the government. So again, it's definitely not time to slow down, it's time to accelerate on the Green Deal.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Sébastien, for your very clear explanations. Now I'm going to invite another guest here in the studio to have a chat with us. Please come and join us, Louis-Frédéric Robin.
Hello, Elie. Hello, Sébastien. Thank you for welcoming Movin'On News.
Thank you for being with us here today. Now, you are the head of technology at ENGIE, a company that is very involved in Movin'On. Can you tell us why?
Yeah, sure. Definitely, mobility revolution is linked with energy transition. So we have a role to play there. And facing the challenge we have in front of us, achieving such a carbon reductions by 55%, is amazing. So we have three convictions. The first is that we need to act. And it's a couple of years that ENGIE is investing in energy infrastructures for hydrogen vehicles, for electric mobility, for gas mobility. This is very important. The second is that we need to accelerate, as you already mentioned. And we recently branded a new company within the group called Vianeo for electric mobility to give the access for everybody, such opportunity. And third, we need to act collectively. Definitely, and we need to set the ecosystem where all the partners along the value chain of mobility will be present.
So we need to put our foot on the pedal and accelerate. Now, more seriously, on the 6th to the 9th of June, the new European Parliament will be elected for a 5-year term. And then a new commission will be set up in Brussels. But what is at stake in Europe for Movin'On?
I think this is an historical moment where we need to materialize such ambitions. Europe wants to pioneering in climate change, and Movin'On could play a significant role to advise the European Commission, but also to make the transition happen.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Sébastien, and of course, Louis-Frédéric. We'll be moving on to the road to 2035 to discover together a concrete initiative to decarbonise land transport in Europe. And now for Road to 2035, for which we will be exploring the work of the Movin'On communities of interest, to which I welcome here on the table Manuel Bischoff-Cluzel, Sustainability Lead in Automotive at Capgemini, and Pierre-Edouard Sorel, Content Director at Movin'On, who are working together towards 2035 to develop a lightweight intermediate electric vehicle that meets 98% of our mobility needs. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you, Elie.
So my first question is for you, Pierre-Edouard. Now you're currently imagining a new model of vehicle. Sounds very exciting. What is this new genre and what needs does it meet?
So typically, those cars are going to get electric by 2035. Except that we need to have smaller cars for less energy, for better efficiency, for less critical materials. So we really need to work on this topic. And then there's the question also of safety. You have microcars today on the market. They're small, they're nice, but actually there's a big question on safety because those cars don't really have safety regulations. So this is also a topic that we want to work on. So this is why we have built that coalition with Capgemini, with a few companies actually, with the Allianz for insurance, with Michelin, with Mobivia, with Saint-Gobain, and with Valeo, which are all lead players on the topic, but also with the PFA, the platform of the filière automobile, WWF, and Institut des Mobilités en Transition for Advocacy. So this is really a big effort on a topic that is really important for Europe.
Some big players involved in this project. Now, I'd like to turn to you, Emmanuel Bischoff-Cluzel from Capgemini. Now, Emmanuel, take us forward to 2035. Now, what new, lighter vehicles could be used in our regions and why?
Thank you, Aileen. Very happy to be there with you today. If we are thinking about 2035, of course, it will be a small, zero-emission vehicle. It will be affordable, attractive, and lightweight, and it would be suitable for 90% of the daily usage. We imagine a 4-seat vehicle, and it might include utilitarian and leisure versions. The kind of vehicle that we have in mind, it's like the microcars that mentioned Pierre-Edouard, but really more polyvalent. These microcars today are limited to 90 kilometers per hour and are prohibited on highway. What we imagine is a new category of vehicle that could be, let's say, be driven on a speed of 110 kilometers per hour, and not limited to 2 passengers like the microcars. We have a great example with the kei car in Japan that addressed this urban mobility. And what is interesting to see is that the Japanese authorities have set up a new regulatory framework to enable this new category of vehicle that is now really growing, and growing also in popularity. Today in Europe, coming back to the microcars, there is also a great popularity. We foresee 250,000 units in 2025 and 320 units in 2030. So a great potential. With our new category of vehicle, we think it will be the same growth.
I mean, that's a lot of parameters to take into consideration, and of course a lot of needs to be met, but it's great that you have this example, of course, of the Japanese kei car. Now, what is your community of interests roadmap for getting these new generation vehicles on the road? Because, of course, 2035 is like tomorrow.
Yes, it is, you're right. Challenge in terms of weight reduction are not new. That's nothing new to the automotive industry. It has always been a challenge to reduce the weight. What is today more challenging is that with the growing number of electric vehicles, we have more weight due to the battery that is increasing dramatically the weight of the vehicle. That's why we need to think really out of the box. We need to optimize weight reduction by bringing a breakthrough. And what we imagine really is to come back to a compromise between performance and regulation. And that's why the goal of our team is to open up a new regulatory framework that enable this new European offer, made in Europe, a new category of car that will be light, of course, but that will be affordable, attractive, and sustainable. Sustainable from design to manufacturing in Europe, to distribution, sales, and of course, usage.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much, Emmanuel and Pierre-Edouard, for sharing these news of this brand new project of a a new vehicle that you're currently working on, and good luck with that. We can't wait to hear more, of course, at the Movin'On Summit with you guys as well. Well, we've already come to the end of this first episode. The news to keep in mind is, of course, the Movin'On Summit, which will be taking place in Brussels on the 7th of November 2024, where we'll be collectively addressing the decarbonisation of land transport to 2035. For my part, I look forward to seeing you for a brand new episode of Movin'On News on June the 18th. We will lift the veil on the summit's 2024 edition. We'll be discussing the programme, the agenda and the speakers that will be there. In the meantime, don't hesitate in sharing today's news programme on your social networks, on LinkedIn and X, and contribute your ideas. Well, I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Goodbye.